We are going to talk about a very interesting, very pertinent topic, very relevant in today's context. This is about social learning to drive business excellence. Before we talk a little bit more about the topic, let's talk a little bit about what's happening at the workplace. What is happening to the workforce itself? What are the trends in the industry which are impacting the workforce and the workplace? Friends, you can definitely um, talk about disruption by technology, emergence of new products, solutions, business models today are actually outcomes of disruption by technology. Every now and then, we are seeing innovation, new products, new solutions, new business models. And as an outcome of that, we are seeing knowledge is becoming fast obsolete. It is becoming obsolete very, very quickly. There is a need for organizations to evolve and disseminate new knowledge at speed. Organizations have become global and virtual. Innovation today is outcome of collaboration. Innovation today cannot happen in isolation. Today, it's the time, it's age of multiple specializations. If you think about today, the sophisticated devices, if you take the example of a device which Google has recently launched, a device which can read the retina of a human being and retina of the eyes of a human being and predict if that person would have cancer in the next 6 months. Imagine how technology has evolved. But let's, for a moment, contemplate about the efforts that might have gone into creating a product like this. Who would have created a product like this? An eye specialist, a computer engineer, an AI specialist? Probably it's a combination of all of this, isn't it? So all the specialists need to come together to create a device which can read the retina of the eyes of a human being and predict if the human being would have cancer in the next 6 months. So this is the age of multiple specializations. A doctor needs to know about computer science, about software applications. A computer engineer needs to know about health care, and so on. And it also requires for people from different specializations to come together and work in a collaborative environment, learn from each other, and then create and co-create outcomes which will create business impact. 3 out of 4 in the workforce today are millennials. Their tastes are different, the preferences, the likes, dislikes are very different. That's significantly impacting the workplace today. Attention span of individuals is decreasing. I was reading a research report which says the attention span of human beings today is less than 9 seconds. That's the attention span of our goldfish. So these are actually posing huge challenges for learning and development practitioners. How do we grab the attention of an audience who could potentially lose your attention in about 9 seconds? What can you do differently? When we look at these trends, what are the business imperatives? What we must do as organizations to respond to the trends that we just talked about? I'm sure you will agree with me that organizations need to continuously upskill and reskill their workforce at speed. I think the speed is important because knowledge is getting obsolete every now and then. We need to reskill people every now and then. Facilitate enhanced collaboration among employees, where you bring health specialists, computer scientists, economists, finance experts together to work and co-create business outcomes. Provide real-time performance support to employees. capture and leverage organizational knowledge. In large organizations like yours, where there are thousands of employees, you have a problem of plenty. You don't know where the knowledge is sitting. Who is a subject matter expert in a particular area? It's important to identify, capture, curate, and leverage the knowledge that is sitting across the organization. Optimize the value and power of that knowledge. So when we're talking about these imperatives, the business imperatives, my dear friends, what could be your response to these business imperatives? What could be the response of L&D practitioners today to these business imperatives? Answer would be social learning. Social learning is the answer. This can enable organizations to identify and capture organizational knowledge. It can support organizations in their efforts to drive collaboration and innovation. It can cater to the needs of a global workforce which is spread across the globe, across multiple timelines, multiple time zones, geographies, etc. So social learning is the answer. Social learning in an organizational context is about an educational approach to sharing and learning that involves groups of learners working together, either to solve a problem, complete a task or a project, or create a product, or develop new capabilities. Or it could be a combination of all of this, or more than one of these. So I think it's very clear. Social learning has a business objective. It's not just for fun. It's not just for engagement. It has a very clear business objective. Either we come together, learn together to solve a problem, complete a task, create a new product, or develop new capabilities. What has been the evolution of social learning? It all began with classroom training in the good old days when the industry understood the importance of knowledge sharing. With the evolution of learning, it all started with classroom training. With the evolution of technology, um, organizations introduced e-learning, automated learning, digitized learning. But then they realized that it can't be classroom alone, it can't be e-learning alone, it has to be blended to have optimum value. And thereafter they realized that it's just not enough to have formal structured learning. It has to be social, it has to be person to person, people to people contact for sharing, seeking, and receiving knowledge. And the next evolution of social learning is collaborative learning and collaborative working. So it's a fusion of learning and working together. So it's not social learning alone. So we live in times where learning happens in the flow of work. Learning has become an integral part of working. So it's collaborative learning and collaborative working together. But when we're talking about the evolution of social learning, there is a question mark that always comes up, which is, hey, we have always been social. We have always been social. It's not that we started social learning today or yesterday. Since times immemorial, we have been learning from each other. And that's absolutely correct. So in that sense, social learning is not new, but social learning has evolved over time. And we have social learning in the present context has a new meaning, it has a new purpose. We have been always learning socially, almost always. Whenever we needed some help, how do I do this? We turn around and then look for somebody who can guide us. With the evolution of technology, internet, etc., we go to microblogging sites like Twitter. We go to blogs. We watch a YouTube video to understand something, to learn something new, to pick up a new trick. We observe our peers and seniors to learn tricks of the trade through the process of coaching, mentoring, just by being with somebody and then watching that person over and over and over again. Reading books, self-development write-ups, blogs, articles, participating in discussions. Today, there are WhatsApp groups. Many of us are part of many WhatsApp groups. So we have been learning socially. We learned socially then. We are learning socially today as well. So when you talk about social learning in the organizational context, it can be of two types. It can be informal social learning, which is more free-flowing, not so much guided, but it's free-flowing, unstructured. And the other type is formal social learning, which is guided, facilitated. But both can be technology enabled. The informal social learning can be technology enabled. We can access blogs, videos, you can be part of WhatsApp groups, Facebook, LinkedIn groups. The other day I was looking for some information about some performance management tool, and I was just wondering how to find it. Well, I went to LinkedIn and then went inside one of the LinkedIn groups for HR practitioners, and then I found a whole lot of information about performance management systems. But that's so technology enables that, but this is informal social learning, and organizations can enable that. Organizations can also enable formal social learning, which is guided, facilitated. Examples can be quality circles, cohorts, communities of practice, etc. And these are programs which are guided, facilitated, which has a technology integration, and so on, where you create an ecosystem, where you provide the right platforms which can enable employees to engage and collaborate with each other and learn from each other. In both the cases, it's technology enabled, but at the same time, in both the cases, there is an element where there is an empowerment of the learner. Even in the case of formal social learning, which is guided and facilitated, there is also an element of leading by community. I think that's important. Giving the power to the community is important, while bringing certain guidelines, regulations, bringing in the right experts into the ecosystem. But we need to make sure that it is social learning, it is community learning, it has to be driven by people. So how to design our learning programs to be social? I think that's important. While we understand the value of social learning, we believe that social learning is important. But at the same time, what is also important is to understand how to really design our learning to become social, how to really design social learning infrastructure, how to design your content for social learning. So I think when we design learning to be social, it's important to understand, or it is important to keep in mind that that design needs to tap into the power of people. Everybody has an idea, and when you bring people together, there are multiple ideas, and when they collaborate, you have the best of best ideas. So the design needs to help individuals acquire new responses by looking at others' behavior, others' demeanor, others' actions. That's important. The design also needs to keep in mind that it should help employees it should enable the right people to acquire the SME status, play an important role in the whole scheme of things. Collaboration to develop a shared response to the problem, to the task that the group is working on. Enabling the group to develop a shared understanding of how they can work together, and bringing all this knowledge back into formal learning mechanism wherever there is a need. So these are the design principles for social learning. Principles for designing the social learning framework. But what are the key challenges today in the social learning program that organizations try to drive? I think one of the biggest challenges is lack of sponsorship. Many a time the top leadership does not value social learning. I'm impressed with what I've learned about what you do in your organization about social learning. You have a great culture of communities of practice, etc., which is phenomenal. But a common problem that many organizations face today is lack of sponsorship. A lack of a culture in the organization, or of course, every organization has a culture, but it is the absence of a culture which promotes sharing, transferring knowledge, seeking knowledge, reaching out to each other. And another challenge is lack of knowledge about how it works. Everybody understands the importance of social learning, but sometimes they are lost, they're confused, they don't know how to start, where to begin, how to deal with the challenges that come in the way, what platforms and technologies they should leverage, what are the key success factors, what should be the structure, what's the roles, what are the roles and responsibilities of people who are going to drive this. So I think lack of knowledge about the whole social learning ecosystem, how to make it successful, is also a challenge. Everybody understands that it is important. And then people learn socially in an informal manner, but the ability to scale it up, to leverage and curate organizational knowledge and make it exponentially impactful is a challenge that organizations can grapple with. Giving up too soon, that's another very big challenge. Organizations just give up too soon. When people start their social learning journey and the initial response is not good, they give up. They say it doesn't work here. It's good in theory, it's not good in practice. They give up. I think these are some of the challenges that organizations, functions, and teams deal with in their social learning journey. So it's important for us to understand the critical success factors. I think one of the important critical success factor is to make social learning an organizational priority. The CEO of the organization, the CXO leadership, they need to believe in this. That's absolutely important. The learning and development leader needs to influence them, needs to convince them about the importance of social learning. That's the most important thing. It has to become an organizational priority. The CEO, the senior leaders need to actively participate in the social learning journey, becoming contributors and seekers of knowledge. That's important. Engage in community knowledge champions. One thing we need to keep in mind that when we start a social learning journey, it's the inception of a community. Like a human being has his or her infancy, childhood, adolescence, youth, old age, etc., community also has its life cycle. At the infancy stage and during the childhood, human being needs most attention from parents, from near and dear ones, from teachers, and so on. So community needs the most attention at the beginning, before it stands on its feet. That's why we need these caretakers, these parents, these knowledge champions. So we need those knowledge champions who would provide the care and the attention communities require at the infancy. Otherwise, they will die down. We will blame it on each other. We'll blame it on the culture of the organization. But hey, let's keep in mind at its infancy, a community needs attention. Involvement of subject matter experts, they will bring in value. They will bring in knowledge. They'll bring in expertise to communities. If they shy away from community programs under the pretext of lack of time or other priorities, they're going to do disservice to the people and to the community. Establishing ROI for business impact is absolutely important. And the ROI can be sometimes financial, sometimes can be non-financial. But it's important that we have objectives, goals, measurable goals. Technology integration, bringing in the right platform, creating the right technology platform is very important, because in global organizations, people working across different time zones and different countries will depend on technology to connect, socialize, and collaborate. If you don't have the right technology, or if this technology infrastructure is broken, or if it's obsolete, outdated, not empowering enough, then it's not going to work. And the never say die spirit. Communities will start, they will struggle, sometimes they will be in a state of poor health, but you need to have the never say die spirit. Your spirit will keep the communities alive. This is absolutely important till the time the community stands on its feet. I would like to share two important case studies from two different organizations. One organization during the pandemic time decided to set up a managers cohort. Before that, let me share with you the business problem. I'm also conscious of time. The business problem was the managers were struggling to engage with their employees. They were struggling to allocate work to their employees. They were struggling to engage with their customers. They were struggling to keep their people motivated and at the same time supervise their work, because they were all working from home from different locations. It was difficult for the manager to bring out the best from their people, keep them motivated and engaged. That organization set up a managers cohort, brought all their managers together, and they ran a series of discussions facilitated by a couple of senior leaders in the organization. And the manager cohort was not a training intervention. There was no GAN sessions. There was no presentation by anybody.
So sorry to interrupt, but we have 4 minutes left with the presentation. So just a time check.
Okay, so I'll just move quickly. So they brought these managers together to engage in a dialogue, understand and discuss each other's problems, and then also listen to each other and listen to good stories from some of the successful managers. And that was a very powerful way in terms of leveraging social learning to drive an organizational objective of enabling managers to learn how to engage with their people better. There's another organization which decided to scrap the new employee induction program, which was very formal and structured of 2-day training with presentations, slides, and so on. They gamified that. They bring all their new employees together and they have a treasure hunt competition. And through that competition, they get to discover different things about the company's values, mission, objectives, strategy, and so on. So these are two case studies what I wanted to share with you. Here are some of the examples, some of the social media, social learning platforms which are available in the market. You can do your own research. I'm not going to recommend anyone. I just want to share with you a few examples. They are available in the market. There are many more. You can definitely do your own research. But when you're doing your research, when you are going for your social learning platform, keep these factors in consideration. Does the platform provide more power to the users? Are the users empowered? Does it facilitate enhanced collaboration? Is the software scalable? Can you scale it up to a large organization? Does the software support integration? Can you integrate this with your LMS, with your enterprise social media platforms, with email, with mobile, and so on? Does the partner provide strong customer support? Keep these factors in mind as you decide on your social media platform. This pretty much brings us to the end of my presentation. I would end my presentation with a short video. I would request the technical team to play the video if they can.